Hello and welcome to Unsourced Wall. My name is Elvis, and as always, I am your host. Okay, so I'm still a little bit recovering. I don't think I have that super flu thing that's going around right now because I am feeling a lot better and I'm getting all better. So I might still be taking it a little bit easy this week, but unfortunately, we actually do have a lot of things to cover. Fingers crossed. And all right, let's get this rolling with the biggest news topic of the week, which is that we now have a full look at the new Batmobile for Matt Reeves' upcoming Batman movie. And well, it definitely has a lot of charm. While I still have a few reservations about the overall Batsuit, outside that sweet cowl, the Batmobile manages to nail the idea of this being an early days Batman. It's a car. It's basically a muscle car, but with the Batwing fins basically welded onto the bumper, and that's brilliant. That's amazing. We better get 2 or 3 racing scenes with this thing at least. Get as much mileage as you can out of it. And yes, pun intended. I'm still hopeful about what this might all lead to, as well as the announcement of 2 twin henchman characters who might be Tweedledee and Tweedledum. So yeah, this movie is actually kind of going places. It's actually trying to, have a little more zest than I expected. So can't wait. Hopefully it all comes together and that it has a nice melange and it isn't just an overstuffed, overly zany mess. Let's skip right on into comic news. I think the only TV news is that there is more momentum going toward the new Lucifer season. So, fingers crossed for them. Hope that goes well. But in comic news, we first have the sorry announcement that Warren Ellis's Wildstorm imprint is functionally dead. I mean, not that they said those words, but what was said is that his long-awaited Wildcats miniseries with Ramon Villalobos has been canceled. And given that that mini was the last bastion of the entire line, since none of the other spinoffs ever happened, then yeah, this imprint is dead. It's over. I guess I'd be more cut up about that if that terrible Brian Edward Hill Deathblow miniseries hadn't been so garbage. So at the end of this, there's little love lost. I guess I will be disappointed for a while that the Gen 13 spinoff never came about. Ah well though, here's to the next reboot, whenever or wherever it comes from. And perhaps a little bit more talked about, we have the news and controversy surrounding Sean Gordon Murphy being given his own imprint of White Knight Universe Batman books. He'll be curating and creating the pictures and then letting the creative teams run wild. Well, not too wild, since he made up his own list of rules. And this is where the controversy comes in, because those rules very bluntly use Comicsgate and fandom managed rhetoric about respecting the customer and respecting the fans, which sounds good in theory, but is really just coded language for pandering to people who have a real stick up their ass about diversity and actual themes and called them SJW nonsense. And well, that didn't go over well with people who know what the fuck that even means. The biggest concern about this was the idea that Murphy was trying to go and get Comicsgate creators to work on the imprint. Now, while Murphy does have ties to Comicsgate luminaries, comics itself is such an insular group that a lot of people do. I remember when the whole Fandom Menace Comicsgate thing was popping off, a lot of folks were still trying to tend to their connections and relationships, so it's not something that I thought was a viable concern, at least in so much as the possibility, although I do understand the worry. I really do. It's something that is honestly troubling because it's such a smoke signal for insane madmen who think things like Seth MacFarlane watches my rant videos religiously and he's making coded messages that show that he's anti-SJW, and it's insanity. They're complete lunatics. And I'm not even joking. That's something that a few of them have said and do believe. But recently, Murphy did take the time to distance himself and to slightly renounce a tad of their rhetoric and the views of some of his friends that are comic skaters. Some think that he's just trying to cover his ass, and that's a fair point. He very likely only is. But the fact is that these groups take any little tiny step, even most shallow step, as a personal affront and attack, and call each other cultural traitors for it. They've eaten each other for less than this. So even if Murphy didn't want to draw a line in the sand, I would bet good money that some gators already are, because of the small little thing he said about how he wants to respect LGBTQ creators and fans and all that kind of stuff. So kudos. I hope things only grow from there in terms of, distancing himself from gators and everything like that, and that the White Knight books are good for those who like the universe. So, fingers crossed. Well, it didn't take even a day for this to go over. But apparently, it turns out that he wasn't even trying to be political. He was just being kind of a lying shit. And yes, I'm talking about Sean Gordon Murphy, because apparently, thanks to Doug Tenneple, the creator who he's buddies with in Comicsgate, totally sold him down the river in order to rage farm from his followers. Basically, what Doug Tenneple did is admit out loud what he and Sean Gordon Murphy were talking about in order to get his followers to go like, see, DC is totally SJW controlled. Be mad at them, support me more, give me more money. And what he did was basically say that Sean Gordon Murphy placed all the blame on DC for him no longer doing the cover, completely contradicting Sean Gordon Murphy's own assertions and attestments to it being a bit more of a thoughtful and somber, reflective decision. And it completely destroys his own narrative. It really does. So that's hilarious, because not only does it make Sean Gordon Murphy look like a lying piece of shit, but because he also tags Jim Lee and calls out Jim Lee personally by name, it completely weakens Sean Gordon Murphy's whole sort of hustle at DC. And it's insanity. Like I said, they will sell each other out over the smallest, most meaningless things. And so what happens here is that Doug Tenable, realizing how badly he fucked up, probably because Sean Gordon Murphy calls him and he says, he explained to me over the phone, but no, it probably went a lot more visceral than that. But apparently after that call, he went like, oh no, he wasn't talking about that. Sean Gordon Murphy was just discussing to me about all the other SJW shit going on at DC, but not this cover, and which does nothing to alleviate the situation, because again, it just underlines and sort of emphasizes that Sean Gordon Murphy is completely in the Comicsgate ideology. No matter how you cut it, it makes completely clear that Sean Gordon Murphy is a true follower of Comicsgate, is someone who probably does attest to the fandom menace, and is a complete shitheel. If you connect the dots, that's the picture that's painted here, and it's amazing. And all this came out because of what? Because Doug Tenable wanted to raise harm from his followers, because that's all they can do. All they can do, their entire playbook is, see how oppressed we are, give me money. Hopefully this has some repercussions. I think a lot of people in this course of a day have seen the wool pulled over and then out from under their eyes. So it's been a hilarious couple of hours since this news broke. In any case, could have happened to a better guy. Fuck them both, and I hope to never hear their names again. And this came under the wire, but apparently we have another announcement for John Layman's ever-growing Chew-universe. While we do have the first issue of Outer Darkness / Chew crossover coming out this week, and I will review it in this episode, he just announced the first issue of the upcoming Chew spinoff, this time called Chew, CHU, which will chronicle the crime saga of one of Tony Chew's sisters and follow their adventures parallel to the main ongoing story arc of Chew. So it won't be a prequel, it'll be more like an integral / parallel storyline that he hopes will be insular enough to work on its own and stand on its own. Kudos to that, fingers crossed. I'm excited. I'm still waiting for that Olive sequel comic he keeps teasing, Chew 2. That's probably going to be my big white whale for this comics universe he's creating, so I will check out Chew when it comes out and wait for my thoughts on Our Darkness / Chew in just a couple moments. So with that, let's head on into what I read this week. First off, we have The Dreaming number 19. And once again, I think I've gone cross-eyed, and that's, again, a really good thing. I've made it clear throughout this arc that I'm all in for how crazy the final arc gets, as long as it hits the right notes, and it continues to try and stretch that commitment to the brink. Where else can you get a dissection of an AI and how they meticulously eroded the concepts of imagination, belief, and dreams, but also get a scene that's straight out of a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And it all flows together. I would have to guess it's because of how fractured the main plot has been all along, that it all coming crashing down feels perfectly in keeping and ordered. Like, it's everything you've come to expect. It also helps that we have the sturdy and staunch hand of Lucien here, finally at the end of his character arc, which grips everything together, keeping it reined just enough to have emotional resonance and impact. And that's not just a shambled mess. There are still some frayed edges to this issue, here and there, but altogether, it packs for a punch for anyone who has stayed with this as long as they have. There's so much in terms of build-up that you can almost feel the release here, of the insanity, of the chaos, and it's just thrilling. As thrilling and as somber and as slightly humorous as this series can ever be. As it reaches the final issue, I can't wait to see where it decides the rest, because right now, it's making some hard-hitting points, and it's definitely making its thesis well known, and it's doing it in a way that can feel a little laborious at times, but again, feels well earned. And it's not making it as torturously boring or bland as possible. In fact, it's trying to hit you in the face with it. And Bill Quisemble's art, make sure you know it. So I can't wait. I really can't wait to see where this ends. Overall, 2 thumbs up. Next up, we have Outer Darkness / Chew number 1. It's the return of Chew, in the form of a crossover with Layman's other Image comic. And well, I'm pretty excited. I'm going to admit that I haven't kept up with Outer Darkness past the first arc. It's definitely some fun and highly original stuff, but I had other stuff on the plate. But thankfully, this crossover doesn't rely on that too much. It keeps things open and general enough to work, especially considering that outside of being a crossover, it has to juggle also being an integral and an epilogue to Chew itself. Like, that's Layman's mission statement, that this is an epilogue to Chew. And since I love Chew, that's where it really shines. It's so good to see see Tony Chu return in all of his surly, bitter, and curmudgeonly glory. How he and Colby bounce off the Outer Darkness crew and world lends a nicely punchy fish-out-water tone, but without being too sticky or gimmicky. And how it connects to Chu's main arc itself is insanely and surprisingly exciting and has me on the edge of my seat. It's enthralling, and I don't know where the hell it's gonna go or how it's gonna pay off, but any of the possibilities right now are incredible. Fu Chan, the artist of the Outer Darkness portions, does a great job of rendering the duo's physicality and humor, and it gives the entire thing, because it also has some Rob Guillory's art, a cohesive feel. Layman has said that this 3-issue mini is going to be like the line in the sand, the final word on Tony's story, and so far it's off to a great start. I can't wait to see where this ends up, because even from the very beginning, you get the idea that it's going to go some depthy character hitting places. And if there's anything about Chu that stood the test of time, it's that Tony's character arc is one of the best character arcs in modern comics. So overall, 2 thumbs up. After that, we have Billionaire Island number 1. Alright, after the last couple of Mark Russell's comics landed with a limp thud for me, this first issue kinda took me by surprise with how good it ended up being. For one thing, there's actual stakes and engagement beyond just trying to be clever for clever's sake. Not that Russell is the worst at that, he is a genuinely witty writer, but for the most part his recent outings have been solely concerned with that as sort of the top priority. It gets in the way of actually connecting with the characters, the plot, or the drama, outside of how much you think you're getting out of the lesson or lecture. With this one though, oh boy, it makes you give a shit about seeing where this ends up going. It dares you to not give a shit, in perhaps the most Garth Ennis way that was done by someone who wasn't Garth Ennis. You have purely detestable and unrepentant, shit-heely, nasally villains, and a guy who is out to kill him. It's a damn great setup. It gives you a thrill while also lopping in the scathing social commentary in a way that actually fits. It makes you so angry and mad and riled up, and it gives everything a nice little punch. It really does. It's wry, it's funny, and it's surprisingly heartening. I dig it a lot. Hope it's able to keep this tone up, because it's got me hooked, and I can't wait to see if it's going to be able to plunge into the somber emotional depths of this premise and of these characters that Ennis can when he does this kind of thing, because that's going to be the make or break for me. I mean, it's fine enough when we have the villains being set up this way, but I really want to get into the nitty and gritty of the main character, of this guy who is there to, well, pretty much run ravage, because we did really go hard into Tommy Monaghan and we did go really hard into Billy Butcher. I expect, or at least I hope, the same for this one. Overall, in terms of the first issue, 2 thumbs up. Next up, we have The Flash number 750. This is going to be just a short one because this was a good anniversary issue, to the point where every other story was more interesting, more entertaining, and actually more like a Flash story than the main story by the current writer was. It made me wish that we were getting runs based on these other stories rather than the actual run we're getting. But yeah, an anniversary issue where even Wolfman brings out the guns in a wonderfully kooky Gardner and Broom love letter, with some extra help by Riley Rossmo, to be fair. Or seeing Johns, Manipul, and Bucciolato bring back their run's classic beats for one last hurrah. It works. It hits. It's the most fun I've had reading The Flash in almost half a decade. I just wish it wasn't back to business as usual of stale Williamson next month. It would have been better if there wasn't any lead up to event stuff in here. Like, if you're gonna make an anniversary issue, you gotta make it more solitary than this. And you do have the main story plot, and you have the 5G story plot bookending this, and it really doesn't need that. Those could have been kind of spared, and you could have added in more classic Flash stories and made this really stand alone. But overall, minor nitpick. I have to give this 1 thumb up, 1 thumb middle. And penultimately, we have Strange Adventures. I know my love of the Fourth World, and well, actual themes, characters, and narrative coherency can make me seem like a biased purist when it comes to Tom King being a hack, because he is. But fair is fair. Strange Adventures was not as trash as most of his other stuff. It had actual balance to it, which helps a lot. And by that I mean, unlike Mr. Miracle, it actually does the bare minimum of backgrounding these characters and the world that Tom King is using. Not just plopping them in and acting like trite cliches are interesting enough rather than just shallow. What this does is that it makes these things so much more accessible toward caring about these characters, about their arcs, and about their place in the story, other than, not at all. Like, I don't give a shit if Scott Free slits his wrists on page 1 if I don't even know what this is even trying to go for in terms of thematics or in terms of how it's related to the Fourth World. It'd be like the first page of Superman slitting his wrists. You would have no impact because the first thing you see. Meanwhile, in Strange Adventures, you have the continual reminder of the contrast, and of the juxtaposition that helps to ground and level out the new tones at play. I'm not holding my breath that this series won't run out of steam or won't go incredibly stupid places that only Tom King will go, because he ends up doing the same thing he did in Mr. Miracle, where he's copying and pasting the original creator's words for wannabe death, but it definitely has a better footing. I want to believe he's learned something about writing characters and actual emotional cores, but again, that's a long shot. Fingers crossed though. Overall, 2 thumbs middle. And finally, we have Illuminated's Zora, Control-Free Conspiracy number 4. This was a fun wrap-up to this pretty breezy, but still very jam-packed miniseries. If there was any other way this could have ended other than in a hail of blood and gore, then I would have been certain that this wasn't Zora at all. Where this final issue concludes the main story isn't so much in terms of the climax, but more so in just tackling what would usually have been a fun, action-focused issue and throwing a landmine into it. When it gets rolling, it doesn't stop, and by the time you've registered what's going on, you're already on your 30th head explosion. It's kinetic, it's frantic, it's got a great ticking clock element that keeps you thrilled, and Alexei remains a wonderfully eerie villain throughout. The use of blacks and that intense dark red is minimal, but when it hits, it's enough to carry its own weight around. It's been quite a journey seeing how this first Zora mini ended up, but it's gone from slightly bumpy to an efficient and relentlessly inventive read that never fails to surprise, shock, and get viscerally fun. Like, you're getting blood, guts, gore, and a lot of raunch, but it keeps it light enough that you know it's all in good fun, and that's the best thing, because you can just go in this and have a rollicking time and not have it be bogged down by anything. I can't wait to get this miniseries in print ASAP because it deserves it. I'll back a Kickstarter if I have to, and I just can't wait to see where Zora ends up after this because I am fully invested now. It sets up a lot, but it also really does have a lot of fun, and it took a while to balance that out, but it ends up making the landing square on the tarmac. So overall, 2 thumbs up. And now we can head on to listener questions. Our only question this week is from AkiCat on Twitter, and their question is, what future personal projects am I excited for? And my answer to that is that, as I've been trying to hype up for a while now, I'm excited for episode 100. That's a huge milestone, and it's only 2 weeks away. That's insanity. I didn't really expect that to ever happen, and I'm honestly not really prepared for that. What I do have in the works, though, is for the 2nd anniversary episode, which is still 6 weeks away, and that's gonna be the release of the 2nd anniversary commentary track for Sylvester Stallone's Judge Dredd. It'll be my 2nd commentary track, so I hope I do a better job this time, and that I'm well recovered from my sore throat and flu thing, because I have a fun surprise planned within that track that I hope people enjoy, because while I love the movie, it's gonna need some zest, and I'll leave it at that. After that, another project I'm excited for is that this summer I'm gonna be going on vacation for 3 weeks, so I won't be able to record regular episodes of week-to-week things. So to buffer that out, and to not miss an update, I'll be making 3 special full video reviews, each one based on a random blog post of mine. So far, it's going to be an X-Men movie retrospective, an M. Night Shyamalan superhero trilogy retrospective, and probably something with the Fourth World. I haven't nailed that down yet. So overall, can't wait for those, and it's exciting. It's exciting times. Anyway, thank you so much for that question, AkiCat. It means so much to me. Thank you so much. And that was a fun question to ask and answer. I just want to say thank you to everyone out there who's ever sent a question, comment, or topic. It means so much. And it really does, liven things up. And I'm so grateful for that and humbled by it. Anyway, I just want to say if anyone out there has their own question, comment, or topic they want to hear discussed on the show, you can always find me on Twitter at THE_SNICKMAN. And I want to give a shout out to the cover artists for the show at DOTEMCEE. Please check them out. They're amazing, and give them a follow because they really deserve it. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Next week is the release of Bloodshot. I don't know if I'm going to see it. If I end up seeing it, I'll do a review. No worries. Fingers crossed, and have a great week. See you again next time.